Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, I want to talk to you guys a couple bit here before we get into the painting about the videos. We have over 700 videos on the channel, and sometimes it's a little hard to find all of them. Like this morning I got a question, have you ever done hummingbirds? If you go to the main page of the channel, and then you go down to the search bar that's right there, right below the introductory video and stuff. There's a search bar right there. And if you like type in hummingbirds, you will see the videos that I have online there for painting those hummingbirds will come up. Okay, so you can, if you want to know about color theory, varnishing, any of that kind of stuff, or if you're looking for, like Maria from England was asking about a kingfisher, I have painted one before, but I haven't done one on the channel. But I did a really neat kookaburra down from Australia, and it's a great video. I really like how he came out. So if you go to that search bar and search, and if you're looking for something, birds, different types of flowers, everything, you can find it in that search bar. Okay, that's really easy. All right. I'm going to do two paintings today, and they're going to just be small little compositions. We're going to run through the last colors that we have done in the last couple elections, the yellows and the blues. So I wanted to, and I've had a request to do some more poppies. I know we have to get to the iris and have to get another landscape, and I have to get a western in as well. I'm going to get them, okay, this week. I'm going to get them. But anyway, so we have these beautiful California poppies, and they can be all different kinds of colors. I loved the shape of this one right here. So I want to incorporate that into a painting. And then the asters. I promised you some of a little composition of asters, and I have some of them here, how they grow. I had these at our house out in Pennsylvania, and this time of the year they would be coming up in just everywhere, just carpets of these blue violets. So I want to do those. So I'm going to do a couple of them today, okay? So let's get into it. I'm going to do smaller ones, but I'm going to use my 11 by 14 panel, and I like to do this, and if sometimes I'll leave massive amounts of negative space, which is really good for a painting to breathe. It adds airiness to it. Or you can just cut it down to like an 8 by 10, and those are easy to frame as well. You can find those types of frames everywhere. Standard colors, everything, let's get going, okay? So I'm going to paint it all acrylic today. I'm not going to, I have a little bit of extender up, but I'm not going to put out any of the open medium because they're smaller flowers. I really won't need it. And I do like to paint acrylic. So first thing I'm going to do is just take a bit of extender here in a big old, this is my big old brush. Had it for a long time. And as a matter of fact, some of the hair started to come out of it here, so you got an uneven edge here. I shoved it back up underneath there, and then put a little super glue right along the edge there, and that just holds it on. This brush is probably, I think it's like around 15 years old. I've left it in the water, so I've cracked the handle, and it has just performed just magnificently for me. But I'm going to make just a nice, soft, light, kind of neutral color here. Maybe a bit of the blue. I love the blue and burnt umber. Makes beautiful grays. And just a light color here. Blue, burnt umber, maybe a touch of yellow into it. Just really pretty. But keep that. It takes quite a bit of that burnt umber because the blue is, the phthalo is so powerful in this painting. But let's thin it out a bit, and let's just go over the painting, and I'll let some of the background just come through here. So I'm gonna, I don't want to leave that in the water. This, you can repaint the handles and stuff of them, but I don't worry about it too much. That's just my big old brush. There we go. Just something like that. Isn't that kind of pretty? And it'll stay wet here for the longest time, but it'll be kind of fun. Now let's keep the composition mostly into here. I want to put in some darks and then some light colors. And I want some of those browns and these greens here. Some nice dark colors here. And let's do the poppies first. And they're full of all kinds of little, they get all kinds of the little leaves, the little pointed leaves and stuff like that. But I want to get some of those really nice toned colors inside in here, and a variation of these colors. I want to keep it all right into this area. A little bit of just dab and paddle your brush around here. Just a bit more green. I want that real dark here. I like that yellow that I just took out, so I'll just go back and add some more right in there. They're just a nice variation of color. You know, you can emulate a couple stems coming through here. Just the chisel. This is a 3/4 inch fusion. I love them. They can, because you could use it as a sharp chisel or do all of this other stuff. And these are also fun. Remember, you can also wipe your brush like this. And sometimes when I'm dealing with the dark, you can make a light stem really easy just by pulling through like that, see? And so you can create a light stem. You have to have your paint on kind of heavy, you know, so you can, like right up in here, let's just back in a bit more brown right there. And then we'll reverse the stem right here coming up, right through it with the light, see? So that makes it kind of fun too, take off that edge there. Just fun ways of doing it. Now, let's just come in and we'll paint. I'm gonna paint with my smaller little number 8 here, and we'll just give it that a rinse. I didn't clean that out very well. That's just a nasty habit as I do. I get so excited when I get done finishing some of these videos sometimes. I was just like, yeah, and I want to go down and edit them real quick and put the video together and get it up on YouTube and stuff for you guys. I forget to clean my brushes. It does clean out really nice with that hand cleaner, which is on the other side of the room over there. So I'll just wipe this with some water and it comes out. It's pretty good. All right, so let's come in and let's just say, I think like one like this and some of the yellows would be beautiful here. And so since those are going to be light and in that area, and that color is going to stay wet here for about ever, so I'm just going to back some of that color out right here, right where I think I am going to paint, and just right in the shape. See, I just rotate my stuff right into the shape of what I think that poppy is going to be. Just take some of the color out, and that'll help it quite a bit. Let's start. You're going to go violets and you're going to go yellow. Yellow is the least powerful of it. I want this yellow to be a bit warm, so the Hansa yellow light's a bit cool, so you can add a bit of the yellow oxide to it to warm it up, which is what I'm going to do. If you don't, you'll get green really fast. And if you're doing something, let me show you. If you're doing something like this and it's coming out really, really green, you can neutralize that. What's the complement of it? Red, right? So you can neutralize it first. This whole area here, these all greens, you can neutralize them like this and then push through and take out. And you've neutralized the green with the orange, and it won't come out quite so green as you start to paint. So sometimes I will do that in the painting. I will neutralize through. I'm going to leave some of that green going through because I think it's going to be pretty. But we'll have some lighter yellow here, and we'll, into the center here, we'll have some more yellows, right? Have some yellows, and then some whites. So the whites here to the outside of those yellows. And I'm going to do this, guys. I'm going to paint a lot with strikes of color and thicker color, because I want this to be very casual painting. And I can push in and out and around, but I want it to be very casual. And then I'll pick up a light color, so I'm working lights to darks. And so a little bit of my quinacridone, the violet, I'll lighten this up till I see about that color of that little guy right there. Right, I'll see that. I'm looking for about that color, and let's start a bigger, see, and I'll pull through. Now see, look at your brush, you've got white and the yellow on it. This is one reason why I'm going to get a fresh one. I use this little paper towel because I don't want to pick that up and drop it way out here. I want to redress my brush, and I want to pull down right to that edge. Now, I can wipe my brush like this and just track the paint out like that, and that just gives you a really nice movement. So I'm constantly, always, I never get so excited about painting that I just dive right in there and, you know, touch down and then move back out again. You'll carry that other color out there into an area that you may not really want it, and you'll destroy it because you can't get rid of it. So, you know, be very thoughtful about where your color is. See, I picked that up. See, it's right there. Now I can take that down. Now you can see how it yellowed it. See, it's not as cool. It yellowed it, and so I'll just take some of that off of there like that. And let's come over here to this side. Right, I really like that one. I'm going to turn it to where I see it here. Let's lift this up underneath this. There we go. Maybe you guys can see that. So don't want to get much bigger. That's about the size of the poppy, right? I think I might turn the edge up here though. So I like that. I'm going to take this light down a bit more right into there. And then I'm going to reverse this now. Let's come right down here, yellow and pink. And we'll come right out through here and we'll reverse this out. Now I've picked up a little bit of pink. See how I just wiped that bit of pink out, and I'll pull out here. This is how I like the pink. This is the impressionistic marks that I like to make because that just makes real pretty little colors, see? And so I'll pull out and I'll pull out there. Now we'll come back into here to our pink. Let's come back to a heavy, a bit darker here. We'll pull and lift off. So we'll touch and lift off here. Boom. And then we'll do it again. Wipe the brush. Boom. Wipe the brush. Pick up a little bit here. Boom. Yeah, it's a pretty little one. And see, so if I want to give a dark edge right here, I'll push the brush into the corner of the paint right here. I'll lean over onto that corner and I'll draw that in. Boom, lift it off. And then I'll wipe the brush just a little bit. You don't have to wipe it hard, just take off a little. Let's create a little softer bit, and then maybe a little softer edge right here. So I control that by how much paint I'm picking up. Does that make sense? Let's put that edge right here. Little darker right there. Now we'll go back to a little softer, and maybe a little softer right here. Maybe just a little edge right there like that. Doesn't that make a pretty little guy? And you can restate some of those other yellows and stuff like that if you want to. The yellows, the whites, if you want to. Now, I'm going to turn the front up, make it dark. So I'm going to, instead of doing it like that one there, I'm going to tap along here and make a couple of darker petals because they would be away from the light right here. Just back like that so you see them. And then I'm going to take a touch of violet and burnt umber here onto the nose. You see almost like the little center there. So I'll tap in the little center. And then let's take some yellow oxide. Here, maybe a bit of these reds. Yellow oxide. We'll just push some softer little motion in there. Here, a few yellows. And you can always go back to your lighter colors, a little Hansa, maybe a touch of the Indian yellow here. I like to tap around a bit. That creates some mottled interest in that particular flower. Maybe some of this orange here. And it's starting to tack up a bit, so I can grab just a bit of extender. If it's tacky, you can use extender. If it's not, you have to use water to get it back out. But a few marks of this Indian yellow through there, that's kind of pretty. Gives and maybe a touch of the brighter yellow. See, it's the marks that I'm looking for, the streaking out, the marks. I like that. I like that yellow to violet right in there. So that's what I'm looking at. Let's just streak that out a bit. That's kind of pretty. Maybe a touch or two of the Hansa and white, just as a little decoration around the center here of this little poppy, right in there. And that's kind of pretty. Here, a little softer right there. Let's do another. So we'll pick up some other colors here. I do like the shape of that other violet one we have to do. So this is starting to tack up. See, now that it's starting to tack up, I can paint my yellows. And when I do the yellows, like let's go for a yellow, orange poppy right here. I'm going to start here with some yellow oxide. And why would I start with yellow oxide? Yellow oxide is one of the most opaque colors of the yellows. If I started with Hansa, I would be there coating it several times because it's not nearly as opaque as the yellow oxide. So yellow oxide sets the foundation of it really, really nice. And it starts that transition of that color. So we'll take a bit of violet and maybe some red here. We'll imagine the little center is going to be right down in there. We'll make this slightly turned as well, this little poppy, right? That'd be good. And let's take maybe a bit of this yellow, maybe a touch of Hansa with it. See, I could flip over to the Hansa now that I'm out of that darker green, and that Hansa will show up better up here. It's just you can't get, I know my color so well. I know Hansa. See and I'll show you. So I'll put the Hansa here in this, right? And it doesn't show up. See, you would be here all day coating that. That's one reason why I use the yellow oxide underneath it. And so there's all kinds of different ways, but I know the colors really, really well. And, I know how to vary them. So I'll put a little red up onto that one. That's kind of pretty. Maybe we'll slide this to a yellow light or whitish one here. We'll just make a quick little couple of petals here for an unopened poppy here. Not quite all the way opened up here. It's kind of pretty. I like little stroke flowers like this. This is what I call stroke flowers. They're quick little flowers here. Let's just slide on the edge right here, make a lighter little, maybe a little lighter poppy yellow right there. Yeah, that's just kind of a pretty little stroke flower, see? And I'll take a touch of the dark, make like an idea of a little calyx there for it, right? Just, it's an unopened poppy. They get some you see like right here is an unopened poppy. So they get all kinds of other little shapes on them. Maybe a bit, you can touch a little lighter yellow out at the tip of that one just to give it a different look. Push it just a bit to soften that tip. That's kind of pretty. Maybe you take a touch of that red down at the base of these, right like that. Just real pretty. You can use all different kinds to get some ideas. But let's shift this one over a bit more of the Indian, which is more of an orange. We'll add a touch of white to this, and we'll shift this one over slightly orange. Give another little color here. Just a fun little painting. Quick, fun little painting here. So we'll do this, right? Maybe this one pulls across here so it sits, it's not folded up, right? Sits across, and a little more Hansa and yellow. You can even strike some out like this so they get softer. But that's pretty coloring right in here. This Hansa, this Indian, a little bit of that orange. That's just really pretty coloring right in there. I'll push in and out a bit. And, then we could decide how white we want to make it. So I'll come in now with some yellow in the white right on the edge. See how I push that? I'll lean over to the edge. And just like I did with the violet, I'll lean off, touch, and lift off. And I'll bring the lightness into the poppy here by the white and yellow. Here, just light little color touches there. That's pretty. And you can make the poppy more fluffy by doing several small marks instead of doing a large brush. Or maybe I'm using an 8. Maybe you go down to a 6 that you have to stroke it a few times, and that will make the poppy look more fluffy if you want the poppy more fluffy. Okay, so lots of ways to do them here. Let's just pull that little guy in like that. That's a pretty one. And let's take a look, both of our yellows. I'm not going to, since I got so much dark in there, I'm not going to add the dark. I am just going to kick around a little bit of that light. I do like the kind of orange because it's different. So let's get just a touch of the orange right in that center there and pull that out, a bit of the orange. So it'll take out, I don't want to take out all that green. I kind of like it, it's different, but a bit of the orange is real pretty. And then, so this color travels in here. Now I'll take just a touch of this color and travel it, and I need to travel that color into some of the other poppies. I like to do this, even though you don't see it, I like to do it, and it's what we call harmony. Floral painters need to tie their flowers, especially when their flowers are all different kinds of colors. This is really important. I'm going to slow down and say this because it is so important. And in color theory, when I teach you in the color theory, I've always created a rule in all my classes for 40 years. It is when you create a color, you move a color. So I created a color. From now on, I call this moving the color. So you'll pick up a little bit of that color into this other poppy. Maybe a bit of it right up in here. You don't express it out all the way, but you put a bit of it in there, and then the eye calls that harmony, seeing it in between. Now, this violet is a cool color, so we keep it down to the shadow sides of stuff. So look at how it changes this poppy right there, see? And now your eye travels through the yellows, your eye travels through these light violets. Isn't that pretty? And so I created those rules on there. So this is the expressed color, this is the traveled color. Does that make sense? So it's expressed that I have this violet poppy, and then it's traveled through the other colors. Now I'm going to rinse that violet out for a second because I want to get this yellow up here, this yellow-orange on this poppy. So both yellows here, a bit lighter. And the Hansa is it takes a while to learn how to use the Hansa because it is a more transparent color. But once you understand it, it does some really pretty things. So, but when I add the white, I make it more opaque. But the white also takes away some of its intensity, which I don't always like. And so that's why I'm going to show you later on in this whole series, glazing techniques is where Hansa yellow shines. It's just fantastic. So let's put a little more yellow right up into the front here, right up there like that. And I'm going to take some of this violet, maybe a little bit of this orange, and lift off and reset that center down there. So there's all kinds of ways you can do it, but aren't those kind of pretty? Now let's take some violet here and let's push a darker one right down here because that'll be pretty. And we'll just casually paint these. Light here. I'm going to casually paint it because I want these to be the center of interest here. So these are going to be casual, just quick. You hear me all the time call them my little ghost poppies, ghost flowers and stuff. We'll take a bit of the warmer color out here. So, and you see I paint them really, really fast and not nearly as detailed. Here, warmer color out from there. It's kind of pretty. And let's do more of a bud right over here. So we have a bud there at the top, more of a bud right there. It's kind of pretty there. And I'm not done with that one. I'm just switching over to a bud here. More of a bud shape there. Okay, push that around. I like to just push colors around. and maybe get a strike of that red. I like that real violety color there, and then boom, almost a red right there. That's kind of pretty. Almost that red coming in right there. And we'll push this angle coming in this way. That'll be pretty. This one coming in this way, almost like little V's of them coming in. Not quite opened up all the way. Here. There we go. Just a little too straight. See how it's a little too straight? Let's take a little warm color. Just push that around in there. And they're fun. Right? They're fun. Here. Yeah. And let's restate our yellows here. Some of that. Right in there, nice and casual. Get that burnt umber red bit right up in there, right? And there, some of this Indian yellow and yellows. Here, that's pretty good. And maybe some lighter, maybe even a little warmer. So you make a beautiful, remember those beautiful colors we made from the violet and the yellow? It's kind of a neutral and softer. So let's look to that, those colors here. Push that into this one a bit. Looking for those variations. Now some of those blues that we made on those blue flowers, remember I showed you how to do some of those blue grays. Those would be pretty in here too, as to a poppy. And you get the white poppies. We just might transition this one towards a little more blue. Let's try it. Blue violet. Let's even get some of our background color here into the violet here. Right, we start this real soft violet. Let's move that over, because this would be a pretty color to hit into some of these others as well. Little touches here. Let's look at what they would look like here. Yeah, just kind of a pretty little thing here. So let's push that in here. It's going to cool it off, but it's a good change for this quick little composition here. Yeah, that's kind of a pretty little color. If you like the other one, do the other one. But I kind of like this coolness coming in there too of these poppies. And it's a pretty color, and you can even take that coolness, a bit of it, and travel it. It would look really nice, like right up in there, see? Yeah, let's lighten that up. We'll change this whole poppy a bit. This is the way I love to paint. There's a lot of times I tell you guys about sitting down with a plan, following a plan, and the plan is really good. But there's a part of you in the creativity. Have you ever been in that where you're going into the painting and then all of a sudden you get these other ideas? Well, you got to follow it. You got to follow those ideas. And sometimes they work. A lot of times you just go, why did I do that? I always wanted to create a medium as a chemist that you can add it and then take off what you just did really easy, so you can go back to what you did before. But we're artists, we're creative, we explore, and in that exploration we make mistakes. So that's just part of what it is that we do. So I've learned to accept that. And so now that is such a pretty little color, but it's a little bit isolated, right? So let me show you. When a color gets really isolated, one of the things that I do is I carry it into the background. One of your largest elements is your background. And so I love that. And so I'm going to carry some of this with a little bit of that background paint so it gets a little softer. And I had all that extender in there, and see how it stays nice and wet? So I don't have to worry about that. And I'll carry that color out into the background, which then is going to create this other kind of a beautiful little softer look here to this. So whenever you put something in and you're not really sure about it, take it out into the background as well. Let's get a brighter little blue, a little touch of the blue, and let's just push that in here. Let that just sit in there like that. That's kind of pretty. Of course, I'm one that you always create beautiful things when you add the blues in there, right? I love the blues. Here we go. Yeah, just those. That's really nice. Now, let's take some of the softness. We have some of the blue greens. Let's create some of the brighter spring greens here. Ooh. Colors that I never use because I'm not really a spring person. But that's why so many of you asked for some of that, because many of you you like some of those springs colors there. And so we'll add some of this around, pick up some of the little spring colors, and it'll be definitely a different kind of composition, right? Yeah, it will. We can just add little marks like this is the little marks of the, the leaves come out with this little marks. And so just doing this kind of stuff looks like the little leaves here. So we'll add some of those. Let's just point of the brush here. There we go. Just load it up into the corner, point of the brush. Those two are too much the same. I don't like to make repetitive marks. I like different marks. I don't like repetitive marks. Let's take just a bit the burnt umber. Look at that beautiful color. Let's drop in. That's a pretty color. That's just a beautiful color. And that's what I like to do, is just work. I work around and find some of these colors. You're making the mosaic of tones. You're not, you're not doing something that is, you're not creating a color rainbow as much as you do what we call the mosaic of tones. And see, I just watching to move that tone around. Where could I add that to enhance the painting here? And yeah, and I like that. Those work against that. These would work really nice as some extra like little stems here. Some yellows in there, right? Some mosaic right in there. Let's take some of this out, that mosaic right there, right? And yeah, I like that little composition. Now, and the thing is, you start to like it. Don't do too much more when you start to like it. But I do think I like everything around here. I do think I like how white poppies just add that interest. Sometimes color gets a little heavy, and so I like the yellows. So I'm going to go over here, kind of where it's clean, and I'm going to slide this yellow one, a bit of the yellow, Indian yellow, a touch whiter right here, because the white will really contrast and advance. And I don't have to rinse it out because it's dry right here right now. That's why I love the painting acrylic. I would have to wipe out again if I was painting in oils, which you can do it in oils, but you'll have to wipe your brush each time. Does that make sense? If your color's wet, you're going to pick it up. You pick it up, you're going to destroy the light to dark look that you're developing in the painting. So, and we don't want to do that, right? So see the contrast that this now creates right here, right? Boom. And here's the other thing too. Sometimes I will do this. So I see that this is a little wet right there. So I'm going to push this lightly, right like that. And I create that little bit of transparency. And then I touch and lift off, and that creates almost a translucent little petal. That's how I create them. I'm going to wipe this back down, pick up this yellow and this, and let's put this edge on here. Maybe come out. If I destroy my oranges or something too much, I'll put them back on. You know, or maybe touch, now that that's dry, maybe we hit it with a touch of the brighter yellow right in there, see? And I can do that really easy, and this is really where the Hansa yellow really shines. You get that beautiful yellow. Some of you like it, and some of you want to leave it back the way it was. We're all different, right? Yes. But the one thing you don't do on my channel is tell me I screwed up, okay? I'll teach you guys all I want. And if I do something you don't like, don't tell me, okay? Because I'm very happy in my little world here. So don't destroy my little world. I'm just going to tap a little bit more here. Some of them have that, like the Iceland poppies and stuff, have those little rings around the color and stuff. So you can detail them up as much as you want. They look just like little blossoms, and they are. They're painted very much the same because the poppy looks just like a little blossom. That's what it does when it opens up, you know. And I didn't paint this one in there completely. I did get a little bit of the shape right here, which is what I like. And so that's good. I could put that darker kind of petal there. It would break yellow. So I look at this, see, and I got yellow. And so if I go back in there with just a little light violet here, and I'll break that back petal right there off. Maybe that edge, that little violet right there. And let's wipe our brush. Let's get some white and that yellow together, and then we'll put a light yellow edge. Now you can't stroke it too many times. They'll blend and gray. But I'll put that light little yellow edge there, and that looks pretty good. So they're really fun to play with here. So I painted it all acrylic. I left myself a nice, you know, negative space. I mean, I wanna come in here and fill all of this up, but it's pretty light, little fun little spring, you know, painting here. Let's go just a touch, tiny bit, some more brighter little yellow greens right in here. Just even brighter, almost pure. Ooh, I hit red. See that tiny bit of red? Boy, it toned that really fast because red and green are complements. Now let's come over here. Just a tiniest little bit here. I just want a bright spring green here. Just some little marks of it here. Just boom. Little marks of it here. Just so all my spring painters out there go, now you're talking. Get that. I am not, so you watch all the channel, I am not a bright painter. I like tone colors, but I'm doing this for you. All right? Okay. So there you go. That's a kind of a fun little one. You can brighten up. I mean, I turned this one by shoving it back by putting those leaves over there, and turned this one into more of a, really more of a primary one. So I could lift it off with a touch more white, and I promise this is the last I'll do here. I could bring that up with just a touch more white. That's up to you. Leave a little joint, a little edge in those petals. Kind of a fun little, different kind of way to work some of those colors, and very different colors too, okay? So there you go. Now, I'm not going to stop the video, okay? I'm going to go right in, and we're going to go over and we're going to paint some little, the asters, right? I'm going to do the same thing this time with some little asters. We'll make a little aster composition, okay? All right, so it'll go dark for a minute, and I'm coming right back. Hi everyone. Okay, we're going to continue on. So I got a new board, same thing, and I have the asters out here. What I'm going to do, the same palette, same absolutely everything, but I'm going to look at the asters, and you know, they're kind of a cool blue violet, right? So I'm thinking background wise, this time I'll take my extender, some of this, and I'm going to warm this up with some yellow this time. Here's a little blue into this too, but warm everything up, because I'll put a warmer background and cooler asters on it. That's what I'm kind of thinking. I'll get a little bit of contrast there. Ooh, a little blue came out there too. That's kind of pretty. So see, I love this kind of stuff, these soft transitional backgrounds like that. So that's kind of neat, right? And I'll rinse some of that out so I don't destroy my old faithful brush there. Then let's create some of those nice contrasting greens and stuff here again. Burnt umber, greens, right? Will come right into here. And again, they're very similar to the poppies in that they don't have big, huge leaves associated with them. So we're going to do just a spray of these up here. We'll put some browns in, right? Some of these colors. And get some of the warms. What I do, a lot of people ask me, what is it you look at? And so I look at through the background, but see, I see this brownish kind of color there. I like that in with the aster, how it's popping like that one right off. So I look at that kind of stuff. Maybe needs a bit of yellow warmth in here like that. You know, that'll all play really nice against them. And, you know, sometimes I'll scrub it around, some of that yellow, and maybe get a nice brighter green. Let's get a brighter green in through some of that here. And then we'll do some really nice leaves and kind of ideas of leaves, because they don't have tremendous leaves. Now, just like before, we can make some stems, ideas of the stems coming up through, right? Just like we did over here on those. And we can slide right through some of this other stuff. Just give some ideas, just movement. That's all I'm looking for. Not perfection, movement, just movement, right? That's all I need. Blur that there, right? Maybe blur some of that there. That's the impressionism that I like, right? Now, these are complements right here. I love this big one sitting right here, so let's wipe back while this is wet right here, because yellow is a complement to that blue violet. So I want to be a bit careful. I like this one sitting off to that side there too. I just like a lot of things on that photo. This one sitting underneath, one back through here, right? And you can see how you could use Rembrandt's technique, his glaze wipeout technique, and really do some fun things. I'm going to start out kind of big, and then we'll go smaller. Let's just take some of our red and our yellow, some of that nice warm orange. We'll push that into some of these centers. And we're going to keep this composition small, I think. But I like some of that, just touches of that red and red violet. So a little violet into it as well that you see. It's a nice juxtaposition to the cool blue violets and stuff. Then we'll work from light to a little dark and then back to light. So I'm going to take my violet and my blue, takes just a little bit of blue to make that pretty little blue violet here. So I'm going to work some light colors, then some dark colors, then some light colors. And that is going to be that color. That is a pretty color. It works. It will dry a bit darker, right? We know that. Now, you can use a small little filbert and you can put them in here like this and the little points. And I like that, but I do also like to make them more casual by using the chisel of my larger brush. And so that gives them a difference, a little bit different. And look, because I can turn it and make all different kinds of widths and stuff to it as I'm putting these on. So we'll push in, we'll pull some of that out soft. I'm not going to concentrate on making each one perfect, we'll make some a little bluer, some a little more violet here. Vary their colors a bit. I like that one's sitting back up here. So, but we will create, and so you sit there and go, Dave, I want to get more contrast. We will. This is your first go through. Don't, in other words, there's so many of that will get immediately frustrated, like, oh, I don't see it any much, and you'll start pounding on other colors to make a change. And that's where we go off the rails. You don't need to. You just say, okay, I'm going to add some of this around. I'm going to see what it looks like, you know, in a few minutes after I add some of this color all around. And then I'll show you different ways to bring it up to make them have more contrast, okay? You don't need to jump into it right away. Now, I may want to create some soft back ideas of them fading away back there. Maybe even that fades away. Maybe even soft little violets back there. See, just soft little colors. Just take this off the composition. That just makes the casualness. And I love it when I just start playing like this. And I just let it happen. And you know, it's just super casual. Now, Dave, I want to have more contrast in there. So I want that center violet, center aster to pop off more. Well, you have two ways. One is lighter. Now we go too much lighter. We can't go past white. We have a lot of light background. The other is create the contrast through the darks. So, and that's my favorite way. I'm going to take a little violet, a little bit of green, which makes a real brown, and a little bit of brown. And let's just increase our darks first in there. The darks will make, let's even go a little bit of violet, purpley kind of color. The darks will make the asters themselves look lighter. So it's called simultaneous contrast. A lot of people, like if I want to make a white flower look white and it's already really white, you do that by increasing the darks, not increasing the amount of white. Now let's put in a pretty little softer green up on top of that, right? So we'll put that in and then we'll soften it with some green, but your eye will pick up the dark and that'll make the asters start to look lighter, okay? So I don't need it all the way around. I just need it in one or two spots so that my eye relates the asters to those colors. And then I can soften some of that out here. And as I come out here, so this is the impressionism I love. Now I'm going to rinse that color out of my brush, right? We'll look to the asters a touch darker, more of a violet right around the center here. We'll push that in. And so see, I'll paint these things and you go, well, you're just messing up their pretty petals. No, I'm going to add those again. I hue shift it. So I'll go to a violet here as well. From blue violet to violet. Well, you don't see violets in there a whole lot. Yeah, you see a few. And then I'll go back to blue violet in a few areas. This is adding modulation of the color, the mosaic of tones, as Sandin said all the time. Those of you know I'm a big fan of Sandin, John Howard Sandin, the portrait painter, and his mosaic of tones. I just don't know a finer portrait painter. I was really sad when he passed away. So, because he just changed the way, he's a portrait painter, but he changed the way I paint flowers. Okay, so now we go back and we'll lighten up again these, and I'll come back in through with the light and touch in. Light, vary the color a little bit as I touch into some of these, and I'll pop up their color. Now I can make them more white, or I can make them more of a blue, but they're going to stand out more this way. Does that make sense? Change the tone a little bit here as you go to paint them. sometimes pull out and let them be a little raggedy here so that you get that casual edge as well, right? And you can define them. Now, let me show you. I can take, if you like more structure to them, you can sit there and do this. I'll show you on a couple. Here, let's get a good blue-violet aster here. Put this up, and so you use the round filbert, and you can get more shape, more perfection into the shape. Does that make sense? Or we'll lighten this up a bit, and you can do that. I like to do this maybe on one or two, but not through the whole aster itself, because I like casual shapes. I like impressionism, but I can do this. I can do that edge just like we did on the poppies, now doing it with a smaller brush. And so you can see more of the edge on those asters, right? And so that's up to you, you know, what you want to do. My job is to show you the techniques and, you know, give you ideas. That's what I like to do. And get you out of trouble sometimes. How do I know how to get out of trouble? Because I live constantly in trouble. When I'm creative, I constantly make little mistakes and go, okay, how am I going to fix that? So you can use this edge. Let's drop in a little more white. This is the petal edging technique. And if you want to, you know, like I explained to you at the beginning of the video, if you go through that search bar, just type in petal edging. You'll come where I painted on roses and other little things. You'll see where I paint the petal edging technique and show you on all different kinds of little flowers and stuff and how to get some of those petal edges. They're really kind of neat. Okay, so I have that. We'll just go, now that I'm doing it with that, we'll just go ahead, but I don't want to make them all the same here. So let's push this one in, maybe that one. Change the color. Let's pick up a little edge here. A little edge. That's kind of nice. So that little edge is kind of neat. You know, I don't always like to do it too much, especially as they're getting away. I like quick strikes, casual natures of color. I like this real quick little boom, 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 the casual part of it, right? But this little 2 or is it 2, 4 filbert just does this stuff really nice. It's small, easy. There. That's kind of pretty. And we can put a couple of these light. You don't need a ton up here. These are just casual little guys back here. Fade them out. Let them sit faded out, right? That's kind of neat. I liked this turn one right here. Let's get a bit of light so it's different out here. Add a few. Change the color a bit, a little bit more white. Add a few right there. And then maybe a darker one or so right here. Slightly darker right up in front. So it's a bit different here. Maybe it has a touch of a light edge right here that draws it in there. So you see it different, right? Let's increase the length of these out here. That'll make it turn more. There we go. And let's get a touch more, maybe a touch more violet onto this one out here. Here. So you can, you know, this one, the edge of the flat makes them really casual. The filbert, as you can see, makes it more round. That's where I really differentiate the different types of brushes. The filbert is, I call it my petaling brush. It makes little round petals really easy. And I'm going to blur that off a bit. See, if I blur it off a bit, take away just a touch of its interest. You know, maybe I'll crease this out here a bit, just like that. I love that one. I know a couple of areas I want to fix on it, but I love it. A little bit of light. Maybe Just a bit of the light right there like that. Just kind of pretty. A little fun here. Give a few little light movements here, right? Ideas of little light movements, little petals. Maybe one sits right there. Maybe a bit of blue in it. Real quick. See, I like it when I get into the rhythm and I do quick little flowers and they're more casual. I like that look of them. Now, let's put some additional blue and light, violet. Just mix up some more color here. My brush gets too full. I don't like it, so I wipe it out a bit. And you can see some people say, oh, you waste a lot of paint. No, I don't. You've seen how much paint I've used. This is the same palette as I used on the last one. And I've used maybe 1/8 for 2 paintings of what I put out. I always put out too much paint. But you can save it. You can put it in a little container and save it. Doesn't hurt anything. It works. You can save it for months. I've showed you that in the videos in there, how to do that. And let's just push that up there. That's kind of pretty. Let's put this light little blue into some of this one here. This will be our main aster. And so we'll carry some other colors into it. And so sometimes I'll paint it a couple times. Let's restroke it here. There. Right? There we go. Yeah, I like that. Little bit of light. See the color, the mosaic of those tones. I just love it. Now, let's fix our mosaic up inside. Little red violet here. Bit of that into the blues here. I like that. Let's even touch a bit of the neutral brown just to have that in there. Or a dark purple would be pretty as well. Even though you don't see it too much in there, could happen, right? So you just put in a touch of it in there for contrast. Then I'm going to rinse it out of my brush because I'm going to first go with some yellow oxide. Now, why yellow oxide? Because yellow oxide will help opaque out some of those other colors that won't allow the Hansa yellow to show up. Maybe even a bit of the orangey color of the Indian yellow. Let's just put some of that out here, right? Pretty color. Then Indian yellow and into some of our Hansa. We'll tap some of that in, right? And maybe a bit out here. The other thing is you can let it completely dry. But what do we learn on those other ones? The Hansa won't show up very much unless I give it first a dose of the yellow, the yellow oxide, right? Won't show up as much. And that's one of the things when in decorative art, and I used to paint a lot of furniture and do decorative art, and you would be putting on a metallic gold trim on something, and people would put on coat after coat after coat, especially the non-toxic micas that make metallics are sometimes weak. And I always said, underpaint it first with a yellow, like a yellow oxide, which is very opaque. You can brighten it up with a little Hansa. Underpaint it first, and then you only need 1 coat of gold, and it causes it to shine. If you have a transparent color and you want that color, undercoat it first. In the hue family, like yellow, yellow oxide is a beautiful undercoating color. It's very, very opaque. It's not an expensive color, and it does the job really, really well. So now I'm going to just take some of my Hansa yellow and my white, kind of use this to dab on a little bit of bright yellow into the center of my aster there. And we'll grab a little touch of it up here, just a little bit, right? A little bit and a little bit. Isn't that kind of a fun little painting? And I want to take some of these other colors out a little farther. Now, I feel that my center, the centers here, is a little bit bigger than what the centers are on the asters. Easy to fix. I'm going to take some of my blue and my violet, and I'm going to stroke down into my center. Lift off. Now, what did I just pick up there? See, I got yellow on there, so I want to take it off, go back to my blue, and pull through. See, I just picked up all that yellow. Touch into this, pull through. Touch into, get rid of that. Pull through, right? Touch into that blue, pull through, right? That takes it down to a pretty little center. And then go back with your lights and start stroking through your lights. You can go all the way back up here. And see, I'll take that center back down, or take it back up a little bit in a few areas. I love painting back and forth. I call this the back and forth. I love painting back and forth because that gives you your lovely interest. And maybe I'll take a bit of that yellow sometimes and stroke that out on a side of the flower. See, like this, you'll see me do this sometimes because it is really pretty. And it takes a warmth into the flower that is really pretty. So, yeah, just like that. Come through and you get all of that interest and stuff into your little flower. Let's put some of that light back up on here. There we go. Isn't that kind of pretty little way to do that? And it's the back and forth. And when you're painting little blossoms like that, don't be afraid to go that back and forth. I really like to do that. And each time I do that, I add that extra little bit of interest to it that I really like. Okay, let's get a little bit of our bright or spring green. Let's push some of that spring green in there into this painting. Wow. Let's tone that just a little bit with some yellow oxide, because Dave just has to. You don't have to, but I have to. Here we go. A little bit of that, that spring green. Out it goes. And marks of it, right? Marks of it in here. You know, you heard, and I love that. A couple of comments where I had talk or spoke in some of the others. The little sparks of color that you put into landscapes and I put into florals and stuff, they add so much. So what I mean by the spark is I'll do this, just little touches like that. And they just add that extra little boom. There it is. Here I am. Look at me. Right? And I started doing that because there was one painting that I did. I was emulating a Dutch painting. And they put this baby's breath in there. As I started adding a little baby's breath, I noticed, wow, it's making the composition feel lighter, more airy. And it does. And that's when you do these little sparks like this, it starts to make the composition feel lighter and more airy. And I like that. I like that feeling. So that's a quick little one. I'm not gonna, you could pop in some more contrast in there if you want, like more darks and stuff in there and get that. You can, what did we do in the poppies when we did those? We shifted over to a red violet like this, and we can take a beautiful red violet like this and hit a couple of these guys here with that red violet just to change them a bit. And that's that's pretty too. And it's just working. You don't want to create a rainbow, and you can even create a few sparks of this color down through there. you know, just because it's a beautiful color here, and just create a few sparks of it happening here, and just to a few areas. Maybe comes out a bit here, like that. Maybe that's too heavy and green, so I'll break it up with a spark of that little violet there. That's kind of pretty. But nice. And see, all of this out here is a nice negative space. And you could come out here and put a mat board out. You could trim it down and do this to an 8x10 really easy. I could, if I want a touch more interest now, up into that very center one here, maybe I restroke this light edge. This light edge right there. And I put in that last little bit of contrast back in, you know, that makes the petal edge here. And that's up to you, how much you want to do. It's pretty. And my job is to not tell you this is exactly the way to do it. My job is to teach you what I like to do, the different looks. Does that make sense? The different looks that you can create. So this has a little more violet and red going around the outside edge, so you can tap some of that in if you want to lift that center a little bit more. I kind of like this the way it is, maybe a little bit of that red right in there. It's a contrast, and it's how much you want to do, right? And if I really focus that red in here, I really create a lifting color that lifts the center off, and it's how much you want to do. Okay, there you go. So then we have the poppies here, and you have the asters there. Isn't that kind of neat? Yep, and kind of fun, different ways to use it. You can't tell me those aren't spring colors, right? Okay, we got that. All right, so there you got some good ideas there to paint those nice impressionistic ones. They don't all need to have perfect petals. Hope you enjoy that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Those of you that haven't done it yet, subscribe to that channel. Make sure you click that little bell so that you know when I launch the videos and stuff. Leave some comments. We help it when you help us promote. Comments help us promote the channel because, you know, it's interaction between you and me, and then the YouTube likes that. Okay, and so anyway, thanks very much for joining me. We're going to flip back over and do some other landscapes, and I have a really nice western drawn up and another wildlife painting drawn up as well. And I've had some requests to do some more of those roses that I did back there. And I'm going to do that as well, some of the pretty casuals. And it was very popular. The roses were almost twice as popular as anything else I've painted in this series so far. So you guys like those. So I'll do some more, okay? I'll do some more of those really soon, okay? All right, there you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.